All right, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Investor's Guide to Memphis Real Estate. My name is Dean Harris, and this is Douglas Skipworth. Good morning.
Hey, Dean.
We're bringing you this podcast to give you the boots on the ground knowledge to be a successful real estate investor here in Memphis, Tennessee. Our info is going to be listed here on the bottom of the screen. We won't have to go through there. I always, every day, all day, help buyers and sellers in our Memphis market and the surrounding areas. So if you're interested in buying any investment property, selling any investment property, shoot me an email at that address below, and I'll be happy to help you with that. Douglas, let's jump right into this. I'm telling you, the biggest topic that I'm getting, that I'm hearing in my office, that I'm getting in my email is from first-time home investors.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah, it's
Now's
great.
The time.
Now is the time. It is great to hear from new guys. We've got, a lot of people have talked about, Dean, how many clients do you work with? And it's like, over the years, thousands, I think. So
for sure.
A lot. There's not 1,000 people buying houses right now. There's not 500, I think, here in our portfolio that's buying. What is really happening in developing is this new crop of first-time home investors.
Okay.
That are coming into the market. They've been reading, researching.
Yeah.
Some haven't been doing any of that. They're just in the very infant stages of it. And today's topic I thought would be great to talk about first-time home investors must-dos. We haven't created a real catchy title yet.
No,
but
that's great. Yes, my stocks are down, my crypto's down, my cash in the bank is worth less because of inflation.
Yeah.
Hello, real estate.
Hello, real
That's
estate.
what people are saying.
That is what they're thinking, and that's what I'm getting in my conversations. We've been back to work this week and from the holiday season, and what the conversations I'm having with these investors are that.
Yeah.
Nothing else is working.
Nothing else is working. Inflation hedge of real estate
is
Tell
where
me
I can protect
how
myself.
I can learn about this.
So today
Agreed.
we're going to do 5 must-dos that if you were a new investor into town, this is something that you should do, in town here or really anywhere. But the must-dos, the first thing that I talk about, and we can kind of go and, we can flip-flop on this. But when I talk to any investor, if they're not paying cash, the first thing that you need to do is to get pre-approved for a loan. That does not change with your personal investment or personal home that you live in.
Sure.
You guys have always heard those agents, you got to get a pre-approval.
Get a pre-approval.
I'm not taking you to show you property until you get your pre-approval. I'm not showing you property here most of the time anyway, but this is just so you can know a couple of things. Your rate, that's a hot topic, right?
Yeah.
The rate, the payment.
Yeah.
All of the taxes and insurance, all of those things that are combined, you can know before you're going to invest what that payment's going to look like, where your budget is, and that sort of thing. Anything else to add?
I think that there's, that's scriptural to count there's a parable about going and counting the cost.
Yeah.
But before you would do anything, you'd count the cost. I think about you, right? You went and just had a great New Year's celebration. Went to a big show out of town.
Yeah.
Did you get your hotel and make your arrangements to leave, or did you get your ticket first?
I made the hotel arrangements.
I knew I was
going.
Well,
but the ticket first, I guess, because I'm
going.
You
knew the show. You're like,
you.
The show is there. Now I'm going to go do that. So it's kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, you're not going to go just show up and try and figure something out. So that's like, you're going to plan beforehand. And I think that's the same thing here. It's like, you want to know about this house, what it's going to cost, what are my fees and my monthly payments going to be.
Yeah, you have to have that so you can know going in. That's the same thing for your residential property. We do have lenders that we work with investors across the country. So I've got those referrals for you. You need to get pre-approved. You need to figure out what that payment and rate is and just kind of be prepared. Almost basic, but today's going to be basic. This is going to be a basic podcast, but if you're a new investor and you haven't done a whole lot of homework other than I just love real estate and I want to get into it, these are the things that you've got to do.
Yes.
Have to.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So getting that loan and talking to the mortgage lender and finding out those things, details, go ahead and getting that pre-approval letter. A lot of people, when we're making offers now, because there's so few, sellers are getting a little bit more specific, they want to see that pre-approval letter. So there's different ways that you can do it. I mean, I feel like if you're out of state and you have a local bank that'll work with you on a line of credit, you can take that line of credit, buy the property, and then refinance it with someone here locally. It's going to be harder for an out-of-state investor to get an unsecured line of credit here in town if not impossible. So you would need to go to your local bank and use them or use your home, HELOC
some
on
type
your
of
home.
Collateral.
That's right. To get that and started. Then you can refinance it here in Memphis with the local lender.
Yeah.
But you do not have to come in here and use a local mortgage lender to buy a home. You can, if they lend nationally and in our state, you can use whoever you'd like.
Not to mention you can use hard money, for the purchase. If you want to use hard money for the purchase, they're local hard money folks who will lend on that all day long. And then you can turn around and refinance it with local lenders or national lenders. You've got a laundry list of lenders you can introduce them to, both on the hard money side and on the long-term financing side.
That's right. So you don't necessarily just have to use anybody here locally. We have them, but you don't necessarily have to use them.
Yeah.
If you have a credit issue, there's going to be a higher rate. I mean, it's still going to be a pre-qualification process, right? I mean, you're still going to have to go to your mortgage lender, whether it's locally or here, and apply. And if there's a credit issue, they're going to have to work with you to fix that. You're going to have a similar type credit score to get an investment loan.
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on lenders are always looking at credit worthiness of the borrowers.
Yeah.
Some hard money lenders are going to be a little more lenient on that because they're looking at the asset itself. Yeah. And some of those hard money lenders will turn around and do long-term loans to less credit-worthy borrowers at higher rates. Yeah. So it's like you're paying for it. And if you're more credit-worthy, you can go to a bank, get a lower rate. Yeah. So there is a place for everybody. In my experience, with
hard money's been a tool I've used.
Borrowers, but there's a place for every borrower on the credit spectrum, so you can find a way if you've got a good deal. Yeah, and again, it gets back into what we're talking about. You count the cost. You figure out what that cost is going to be before you buy the property. If it's going to be a hard money loan, if it's going to be financed long term at a higher rate, lower rate, longer amortization. There are a lot of different ways to do that.
Number two, I've got identify your market. Specifically where in the market,
Yes.
I mean, we have so many small pocket markets here in Memphis. I think it's extremely important to kind of figure out where you want to go and what to expect when you get there. We just have so many different areas. I mean, if you said I want a $1,200 rental, we have a couple areas for that, but there's just so many little small pockets in Memphis that you can invest in. I mean, I've got investors that do nothing but buy over here in 38122 in the Berkeley area. That's all they want. They don't want anything. Yep. I've got the same thing in 38111 in that area. Like, there's some guys that stick to it. I'm not one for that. I think you need to mix it around, but I think the first thing to do is to identify where you want to be.
Yeah. I mean, I'll kind of go back to you, your New Year's, but flip it and say, like, I mean, if you're taking a vacation, you got to decide, like, am I going to somewhere warm and sunny? Am I going to with a beach, or am I going to the mountains, or am I going to like a big city?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? What are you trying to accomplish? And then when you say, all right, I'm going to the beach.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your budget? How far do you want to go, around the world, or just somewhere you can drive? Are you taking a plane?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And I think that's like what you're just saying. It's like, okay, once you narrow in on like, I'm going to invest in this market, what's the sub-market you want to be in? What type of asset, whether it's a single family home, whether it's a duplex, whether it's a small apartment.
Basically just getting your ducks in a row on what our target is. If you don't have a target, how can you hit it? You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing. Is like those guys with the rifles. We love these analogies, but I mean, you don't go to the target range and with no target.
Right. And even with that, and we did this the other day when we were planning for this year. It's like, I mean, think about like being in in a bar playing darts.
Yeah.
And like the dartboard, and you got that bullseye.
Yeah.
Like that's your target. Now you might hit somewhere around that
and win the game.
And win the game. But you need to know, like, what is your ideal target? What is your bullseye center? And then you might end up with something beside the bullseye.
That's
to your point.
That you're happy with.
But
you need the target.
You need a target. You need to focus in on what it is you're trying to accomplish and where you're going to be able to do that with what property type, what submarket, or what part of Memphis, what neighborhood, what zip code.
Yeah.
Shameless plug for Zip Code Podcast. There's tons of resources that you've made available
to help people decide,
to help first-time buyers get a sense of all the zip codes in Memphis.
Now, if you don't listen to there, or if you listen to it and you're still saying to yourself, "Hey, I'm unsure," let's schedule a call. I mean, shoot me an email and let's schedule a call, because my second note on here was, you might not be able to determine that, but I can certainly help you. I think you might own in all the zip codes. I have. Do you?
I have. I don't anymore.
Right.
Because that's the next episode on pitfalls.
That's right.
Tune in next time for
right.
why I don't own in every zip code in Memphis.
Yeah, the next one is the pitfalls. So we're for you new investors that are paying attention here, be sure to tune into the next one because it's going to be about pitfalls. But I own in 11 zip codes. Okay. So which is not all of them. I think there's 20 something that we would invest in, but I'm about half. Yeah. So I can give you a pretty good idea in the main zip codes of what's going on and how to create that bullseye, that target.
How do they decide, I want to be in Memphis, I want to be in single family homes, I want to be in the $1,200 rent range? How do they decide those three things? You don't have that conversation. They come to you and say, hey, I want to be in single family in Memphis.
I'd say 80% of the time, they come to me and have at least a baseline criteria, right? Now, after
how have they developed that? I mean, again, they're coming,
their own individual research of what I guarantee it starts off with a loan, because they look at the loan and the payment, and then they look at a price range and they say, okay, if it rent, they do the rent and cash flow.
Yeah. I mean, on Bigger Pockets, I always see people who are like, I've been researching markets and I'm settled. I found Memphis and Birmingham, Kansas City, wherever else, but I found Memphis and I like the cash flow and I like the rent that I can get per the purchase price, the value there. Yep. And so it makes sense to me.
Now, when they get on the phone with me and they say, hey, can I buy that product there? It's yes or no, right? So then maybe we adjust it a little bit, but they typically do their own research. Bigger Pockets is a great website, and they'll try to figure out, hey, in Memphis, here's the median price range. What can I make work there? Right. Now, when they get on the phone with me, it's sometimes some guys come in here and they want $700 rentals. It's like they don't need to buy that, right? Yes. They might cash flow something on there, but they don't want a whole portfolio of $700 rentals. I'm just here to tell you. I mean,
well, that's pitfalls.
They don't. That's pitfalls. So that's what yes. Right. They create a little bit on their own, but then the real creation and kind of the stamp, so to speak, on it is after I have a conversation with them and determine what's best for them.
Yeah. And again, they've self-selected a little bit because if they want big time appreciation, they're looking at Vegas or Atlanta or West Coast. I mean, just totally different things.
That's right.
So it's more like cash flowing, steady appreciation.
Yes. Cash flow is still king here.
Yes.
Everyone likes a little appreciation. That's almost the icing on the cake. But what people still come here for and what they have always come here for is a cash flow.
Yep.
So identify your market is kind of the main one. Let's see. The next one we have is choose your agent. Mm-hmm. Choose a property source. I do not, and for my wholesalers that listen, man, please don't take this personally, but I don't recommend going directly to a wholesaler. In most cases, I'm not going to use an absolute and say all cases. Okay. In most cases, I do not recommend going directly to a wholesaler. There is no governing body. These guys can do anything and say anything. They don't all do that.
No, you got great wholesalers.
We have great wholesalers that we work with. I try to limit our activity to those guys.
For sure.
But there are other wholesalers that we might not know in other cities and other areas and other things that can tell you anything to get a deal done. And it can be dicey, and that's kind of how I'll leave it with there. You can definitely run into some issues when you choose an agent.
Well, I mean, with the wholesaler, they're almost dealing. I don't want to say self-dealing. I don't know the proper term, but they're representing the house. They're trying to get it. Whereas you're representing the agent. I mean, as an agent, you or another agent is representing the buyer or the seller.
Yes. Solely.
And whereas the wholesalers representing themselves in that scenario. Yeah. So again, it goes back to, we've talked about this before. There's wholesalers, there's licensed real estate agents, and then there are realtors with the code of ethics. And realtors have a even higher standard than licensed real estate agents. So,
and I'm a realtor. I'm by that code of ethics. There's no.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what realtors have to do is put the fiduciary duty to their clients first. Yeah. And that is what you do all day, every day. That's what other agents are doing all day, every day. Yeah. As we're going through this, I'm going, really, to me, it gets back to the three fundamentals I think of real estate investing. And that to me, that's deals, financing, and management. Yep. And we've already talked about the financing. Yep. So now we're talking about the deals. How are you going to find deals?
Yeah.
Like that, if you are a new investor, you got to find deals, you got to pay for those deals. And then it's like, You're like the dog that caught the school bus chasing after. It's like, I've got my financing, I got my deal. Now I caught it. It's like, now you got to manage it.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that later. So you're talking now about how are you going to find deals? Yes. Are you going to spend all day, every day searching and combing? Or are you going to pay a professional who does it, who has relationships with wholesalers, who can negotiate between other sellers and other agents? I think that is what we have recommended. That's how I started. I started with an agent here in town. She has passed away, but Sheila was her name, and she was awesome. And she helped me make bids on houses, all kinds of houses. And she knew the market. And she gave me advice and helped me, introduce me to contractors and agents and insurance agents. I mean, she was an agent, and I got what I paid for because she gave me the advice I needed to do that. And I think what you're saying is, hey, if you're a first-time buyer, look at using an agent. And I think what you haven't said is what I'll say is like, you 100% want to make sure that agent knows what they're doing. And when I say knows what they're doing, I don't mean they're licensed or they're a realtor. I mean that they deal in investment property and that they own investment property and that they have a business of helping investors buy. This isn't something that, oh, guess what? You and I know this. The market for first-time home buyers, not first-time home investors, first-time home buyers and home buyers in general is not what it was a year ago. No. And so you're going to have a lot of agents, and we're already seeing this, agents who are all of a sudden, they can help people buy investment property because all it is just helping somebody buy a house.
It certainly is. There's been a lot get into it here in the last year or two.
And just beware that they don't make sure, vet them, look at their experience, understand what it is they know about real estate investing, because they have a fiduciary duty to you to put your best interest in mind as a client.
One of the things that a lot of people say, what separates you from agents, and we don't do a whole lot of self-promotion on here, but one thing that does separate, I guess, myself from some of these other providers or agents that are doing this is that I do own a decent sized portfolio. I mean, we've owned them now 7 years, so we've been buying for a good bit, and having, this is part of what I tell clients every day. When I first started selling this product in 2011, when I came over here, it was great. We were selling them, but when I started to buy them in 15, my conversations changed. It immediately. Yeah, I instantly understood some of their issues. I instantly understood where they were coming from in some of the areas where maybe I wouldn't have before. And then as the years went on, not only did I begin to listen and understand, then I could offer up solutions, right? Right. So then my representation level and quality went from here to here. So, and the price of that doesn't change. Yeah. And none of that changes.
Great. Yeah.
So
excellent point.
You're not having,
pay more for
you go to a lawyer, you're going to pay more for a good lawyer.
Per the hour, right?
That's not how real estate agents charge and work.
That's right.
That's not how it goes. You get the same fee, it's the same process. You're just getting automatically a higher level of attention here because of my experience.
Man, that's good. And I think we've talked about this maybe before, but it's like the car salesman who drives the car.
Yeah, he knows that car.
Like you want a car salesman who drives that car, not one who's like, I don't really like this. I sell these, but these, or the doctor who's fit, right? Like you want the doctor who's fit, not the doctor who's smoking and carrying on. So, and I think that's what you're saying. Warren Buffett's got a great quote. He said, I'm a better businessman because I'm an investor.
100%.
And I'm a better investor because I'm a businessman. And I think that's what you're saying. It's like, hey, you're a better agent because you're an investor.
That's it.
You're a better investor because you're an agent, but that's 100%. But for this scenario, you are a better agent because you are an investor.
And I think it bleeds over in my conversations naturally. I'm not even on the phone trying to come across that way. It's just from the experience I can sit here and say, hey, don't go do that, or let's go do that. And that is an agent can know the market. They can know an area. But if they don't invest and know the tenant base and the property managers and the contractors in that area, I don't see how they can properly give you advice.
Yeah. So, you want somebody who practices what they preach, eats their own cooking, whatever you want to say, that somebody who's living it and doing it.
And I'm not the only one, right? So this is not a situation where I'm saying, hey, I'm the only one.
No, we're saying this is what if you're a first-time buyer, first time investor, this is what you need to find when you're building your team. You need to, you need to figure out your financing. You need to figure out your deals, how you can get your deals, who's going to help you do that.
If you need any help with that, ask me any questions. I like tough questions. I like, why are you different than other agents and all that kind of thing. I think I've got good responses to that. Be sure and shoot me that email and I'll be happy to set up a call with you. Number 4, start to interview property managers, start to interview contractors, title companies, all of these people you're going to be working with closely. Use companies that either I recommend to you, at least start with that, or use a company that someone else has used. That's a big mistake that I think other people come in here. They look online and, oh, there's a title company. I've seen a few mentions. Let's use them. That's horrible. Don't do that. Get in touch with somebody that has used that person.
Yes.
You might not like them. It might not work, but at least you're not going blind.
Don't go blind. Yeah.
They've closed here. They've had some successful closings with this title company. Start there. They've used that agent before. They've, whatever it is, start with that.
Yeah. And again, I think this is where I go back to the 3 fundamentals: deals, financing, management. Now we're talking about management.
Yeah.
How are you going to get that? You've got the deal, you financed it. Yeah. Now you can get management. You're going to vet them. The great news is this is like fast food. Fast food, there's all kinds of fast food. There's one for there's a fast food for you.
One.
Right? There is an agent.
Yes, there is.
There's a property manager for you. Mm-hmm. There is a title closing company for you. So it's like, to your point, talk to people, get recommendations, get referrals, vet them, work with them, and find who fits best for what you're trying to accomplish. Same with the agent, but definitely with the property. And I'm thinking more specifically on property management, right?
Yes.
Like there are different property managers. Don't look at fees, look at services, and then compare what you're getting. What do you want as a service?
Yeah.
What do you need from your property manager? And how then go and vet those folks that way, much like you would where you're going to eat.
I'm catching you on the fly here. This is an honor. Yeah. It's top 3 questions property managers get. What are the top 3 things, the first 3 things that somebody comes in here when they ask? What are I'm not asking for the answers. I'm just asking, what do they ask?
They always ask for price.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
They ask any questions on service. They ask is there anything, because I'm asking this for a reason. I believe the services are about the same. I believe that one can be better at that service, but I believe the processes are the same, right? We collect rent, we place tenants. It's the same
service,
type of service.
What they're getting, it's like I'm getting a hammer. You're getting something to eat. That's right. They're collecting rent. They're placing tenants. They're taking service calls. They're producing financial statements for you at the end of the month. They're dispersing your money to you every month.
Yeah.
They're doing turnover when there's issues. They're helping with collection issues.
So price is typically where the first investor goes.
Right.
And we fall in line with everybody.
Sure. But it's like understanding what your service is getting, what the service levels that you're offering, what the experience level is, what the market, where they fit in the market to do that. But don't come in, go in know what you were looking to get out of a property manager.
There's the biggest thing I was looking for.
Yes.
By me saying, what are the 3 questions? Know what you're coming in and looking at. Like, what do I need from you?
Correct.
And then we can answer the question of, well, we're not right for you, or we're going to be a perfect fit.
Man, hand in glove, or, hey, this just isn't the fit, but maybe you should try XYZ. 100%. They manage in that neighborhood. Yeah. I mean, you and I, we talk to people all day, every day. I was talking to somebody this morning about short-term rentals. Yeah. We don't do short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Manage short-term rentals. Yes. I said, I have never owned or managed short-term rentals. So I can't give you a lot of advice on that. We've helped people buy them. We've helped people finance them.
All the time.
We've helped done some stuff. I've stayed in them, but I don't own any short-term rentals, and I haven't personally managed any, so I can't give it a lot of advice. Anyway, all that to say, ask what you need, and then people can steer you to the right place.
Big time. Number 5 here, and this is, we can elaborate further on these, but have patience, trust but verify, stick to your plan, and constantly educate yourself.
Yes.
I think if you'll do 1 through 4 and then stay with number 5, I think your level of success or your probability of success is going to go way high. I just think if you stick to your guns and you trust but verify, we love that trust but verify, because I sell to clients all the time. You guys are out of state. Most of you guys are sitting in California or the West Coast or Miami or wherever you guys are from. You're listening to this podcast and you're probably thinking, if you haven't worked with me, how does this all work in town? There's a whole nother podcast where you ought to trust but verify, right? I mean, that's a whole nother topic of what you have to do when you work with an out-of-state investor, or, on my end, what I have to provide to that is clarity and truth and communication. I mean, it's just something that I can talk with you more, but trust but verify is definitely something. An example of that quickly, when one of my clients completes a rehab here,
that's a great one.
With the house I source for them and the contractor I referred to them and the property management company I'm referring to them.
And then you go out there and say, it's great.
And then I go out there and say, it's great. Guys, I didn't know how to do this.
No.
I'm obviously going to be honest with you, but if you're not using me and you're not, you need a third party to go verify that property I sourced for you, the rehab job that's been done. And before we turn over to property management, you got to verify that everything's good. So the trust but verify process is something that investors have to get used to. Some are in it right away. Some take a little bit to get in it.
Yeah.
And a very few don't get there.
Right.
You know what I mean? They just don't get there. So the trust but verify is good. Stick to your plan is always something you should do with anything. But I mean, like, we identified that target. Don't move the target around before you do anything. You know what I mean? Like, going back to your dartboard game, like, are we moving the board around, before we've at least played? No, you're just going to leave it. So stick to your plan. And then the constantly educate yourself is, to me, shameless plug again, I think this podcast would constantly update you on what's going on. I mean, the only thing we talk about here is investing here in Memphis. So, keeping up with us on a regular basis would be a good idea. Going back and listening to some old stuff would be a good idea to educate yourself. I've had investors tell me all the time they hear stuff from a year ago and it's listed on the YouTube channel and Facebook. So
no, I do. I mean, I think all those are great. I mean, this is a marathon, not a sprint. If you're a long-term investor, right? If you're a fix and flipper, hey, maybe it's a short-term investment, but you're trying to make this a long-term career or a long-term investment plan. Yeah. So either way, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So
I'd say 90%, before we get off that, 90% of the people, it is long-term. I don't typically talk to anybody that says, hey, I'm looking to get one rental and that's it. Or
that's what I'm saying.
One house and I'm out of here.
No. This is a marathon. This isn't a sprint.
That's right.
Like, learn, pace yourself. Like you said, stick to your plan. I mean, I had it down here for earlier, like when you're trying to identify your market. It's like you set your vision and kind of the vision where you go, you put your goal, you put a date on it, you develop your plan.
Yeah.
That's the four. And then we said it before. Then you do the Arnold Schwarzenegger. You work your ass off. That's like what you do.
That's right.
You work the plan. You stick to your plan. You work the system. Yeah. That's the hardest part. All what we're doing here is simple.
Yeah,
it's not
these
easy.
5 things are not difficult if you stick with them.
Right. It's like the professional athletes we talk about all the time. It's the Jordans, the Kobes, the Tom Bradys. It's everybody. The Schwarzeneggers. It's like, they'll tell you, it's like, it's simple, but it's not easy. You got to work. Yeah. Stick to your plan. It's easy to lose focus. We'll talk about that on the pitfalls, but it's easy to lose focus. So stay focused.
All right, guys, this was a great, a great kind of a first-time investor podcast. We're going to stick to this theme maybe for 2 more podcasts, but I think it's important to get some of this information out. None of this is a secret. You probably have heard this somewhere else. But what we are trying to do is what we have experienced in our time, the things that we have seen investors do to remain successful are listed right here. If you're not doing these things right here, I believe you're not on the most perfect path. Does that make sense? Doesn't mean you can't get there. It's a path
I'm still on, Dean.
I do.
That's what I'm saying. It's like deals, financing, and management. That's how I look at it. It's like, where am I in that? And how do I do all of the things we just talked about?
Yeah.
And how do I avoid the things that are coming next week?
Yeah. Next podcast is going to be on the pitfalls for first-time home investors. And we've got some pretty good ones. And I think I've done them all.
Oh, I was going to say, it's going to be the blooper reel for me. Like,
I'm certainly going to break down some
do as
things
I say, not as I do.
Yeah, I got one. I bought a house and man, the rehab went wild and I just messed it up. So we'll talk more about that on the next podcast. Yeah. If you guys have any questions, thanks for tuning in. Shoot me an email at the bottom of the screen there. I'll be happy to jump on a call with you and answer any of these questions, you first-time home investors that are out there. Got anything else?
Love it. No,
okay, guys. See you next time. Appreciate you tuning in.
Bye.